And we're live.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Building Your Wellness Brand Within Your Community. I'm Dr. Alan Weinstein with my co-host, Dr. Randy Ross. Today's episode is brought to you by Epic Consulting, making sure your electronic presence is all it needs to be. Community Wellness Day. Every great opportunity begins with the first step. Take that step with Community Wellness Day. The System, the official marketing program of healthcare professionals everywhere. The VIP app, the only application that allows you to bring these live hangouts to the desktop, iPhone, iPad, and all your Google Play devices. Our apps look so good, people are going to want to lick them. The Google in 10 Minutes, a step-by-step guide for all things Google for your business. You can visit us at tinyurl.com/Google in 10. Today we have a special program, the 12 Steps of Intimacy with Michael Drew. I've had the pleasure of meeting Michael a number of times, as once or twice shared the stage with him and have seen him do a presentation on the pendulum, which I've watched him do it a number of times. I never got tired of seeing it, and he's changed it every time, which even made it more enjoyable. But he is the world's most successful book promoter. He has 82 consecutive bestsellers. He's co-author of the bestseller The Pendulum, which I've read twice. He's founder of Promote a Book. He's the creator of the 12 Steps of Intimacy, which we're going to talk about today, and just a couple of other things. He's also helped writers and authors, thought leaders, speakers, entrepreneurs build upon an essential component of continuing success, creating a platform for their writing and their message so that they can expand their audience and adapt to social shifts. Through Michael's skills in website creation, his strengths as a speaker, his career coaching, and in his innovative use of personas to intensify the effectiveness of all sorts of writing, Michael has been a force in the creation of a new generation of thought leaders. He has helped them to become even more effective entrepreneurs who nourish today's idea-hungry marketplace. With that said, let me turn it over to my co-host, Dr. Randy Ross. Here's Randy.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. If you're watching this other than in a VIP app, you have a comments box. Let us know where you're hanging out from, and if you ever have any questions, you could place them in there. For some reason, we don't get to them during our hangout time today. We'll make sure to get back to you. Well, I'm very excited about today's guest, and I'm going to tell my little first-time pendulum story. We were actually at Steve Hoffman's conference a couple of years ago, and I had not heard of Michael, but I got very excited to hear about this pendulum, and got up on the stage and started talking, and I remember thinking, I don't understand this. And in my head thinking, why don't I understand this? And I was sitting next to Dr. Allen, and I leaned over and I'm like, Al, I'm not getting this. And he's like, just watch. And as the whole thing really evolved, it was probably the greatest presentation I've ever seen. I talk about it all the time and recommend the book, and I too have seen it a number of times, and it's very rare that you see a presenter more than once on its same topic that you don't get tired of it. They change it, they update it. It's probably one of the most interesting things that I've ever seen created or written about. So I'm really excited. Michael's a busy guy that he took the time to be here with us today, and he's going to kind of tie in. We're always talking about business and ways to be more successful, and he's got some really interesting thoughts, a lot of which are, what I align with and talk about all the time about how you have to have relationships in business to be successful. So with that, let me introduce Mr. Michael Drew. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm honored by your comments. Thank you.
So, Michael, I know there's so many things that you could talk about with us, and I'm sure you'll be what we call one of our repeats, and we'll have you on more than once. But I really definitely, resonated with when you talked about these 12 steps of intimacy, and I started reading a little bit about it, because I think there are so many aspects of this program that you've developed that is such a disconnect for, I'll say probably more small business owners than larger, but maybe for large business owners too. So, tell us a little bit about, what this actually is, the 12 steps of intimacy.
So let me quickly set context. You mentioned pendulum a couple of times, and I'm guessing most of your viewers have not seen it. Pendulum set up the context for why we developed the 12 Steps of Intimacy as a program. And Roy H. Williams, who's my co-author on the book, owns the 4th largest ad agency in North America for buying radio. I own the largest book marketing agency, having marketed 83 consecutive books as of yesterday to the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and New York Times bestsellers list. We wanted to give our clients a competitive advantage. How do you give your clients a competitive advantage? Well, how about if you can predict the future? In science, we look at chaos theory. Chaos theory states that there are patterns larger than what the left hemisphere of the brain can comprehend. In the Book of Solomon, King David said, "The thing that has been is that which shall be, and that which shall be is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new, that has already been of old time, which was before us?" Blackie Sherrod, the famous sports writer from the Chicago Tribune, stated, "The reason history must repeat itself is because we pay so little attention to it the first time." So, with that in our minds, Roy and I went back and researched both qualitatively and quantitatively the last 3,000 years of recorded Western civilization, looking for a pattern in the way society changes its mindset. And indeed, we found one. We found that humans are not unique snowflakes, that we very predictably do the same thing over and over and over again. Now, what we found was that there are these two cycles, a cycle of we, about the community, and a cycle about me, the individual. Neither cycle is wrong or right, but what we found was that human beings always take a good thing too far. This is a psychological system. And when you take me too far, we become a society that is plastic and phony and a society of posers. When you take we too far, which we're currently in a we cycle, when you take we too far, we become a society that is highly regimented and highly conformed, and we start going on witch hunts against people who don't conform to our ideologies or beliefs. So with that, again, our intention was a business application. And from 1963 to 2003, we were in a me cycle, where in marketing and advertising, direct marketing ruled the day. It was about push. It was about seduction. It was about helping people believe that they could be bigger and better than who they were. When we moved into a we cycle in 2003, which will end in 2043, we entered a cycle where our currencies were authenticity and transparency. And what we demand more than anything else is relationship and community. And so it would stand to reason that we would see the release of the internet, Google and YouTube and all of the social media, which are all about the creation of community. Now, selling is done one-to-one or one-to-few in an intimate environment. The three of us on this call are in an intimate environment. Everyone else who's on this engagement is in a semi-intimate or non-intimate environment because they're not having the same dialogue that the three of us are having, although they can engage through the comments on the side. It's not a fully intimate environment. And so what we found, and marketing and advertising is always done in a non-intimate environment. A non-intimate environment could be TV, radio advertising, print advertising, internet marketing, anything that is done not in an intimate environment where we can have back and forth engagement. So what we noticed, and the reason we originally did the research, is that the old forms of communication and marketing, as we moved into this we cycle, were no longer working. The old forms of direct marketing were simply not getting the conversion rates that it used to. And instead of relying on the old dog continuing to generate the revenue, we said, no, we really need to know what's happening, why it's happening, and where we're headed. Now, in business topology, we know that if there's a problem that is industry-wide, that you don't look in the industry for the solution to that problem. So if there's a marketing problem in terms of the effectiveness of communication to an audience, you don't look at other advertisers to see what's working, you look outside of that. The best example of this was Henry Ford. Henry Ford is credited as creating the assembly line, although he really didn't. For those of your viewers that don't know this, what happened was Henry Ford wanted to find a better way to build a car faster, and so he started going into different industries to see how they would mass produce things. And one of his friends happened to be a butcher who owned a big meat shop, and he went in to see how they cut animals. And what he found was that they had a different butcher for a different part of the cow. They would cut off the head, they would cut off the legs, they would cut off different pieces of the cow. So they would disassemble the cow in a line. And what Henry Ford said was, oh, let's reverse that, and instead let's assemble the car one piece at a time with one person being in charge of one element. So what he did is he looked outside of his industry, automotive, and went to meat packing and found that that was the solution. So what Roy and I did is that we need to look outside of marketing and writing to find the solution to this marketing and communication problem that we're facing. And so we asked ourselves the question, who has done, outside of marketing, who's done more data and research on human persuasion and on building relationships with each other? And what we agreed upon was that marriage counseling was the place that had done more research than anywhere else. And so we started researching the history of marriage counseling, and what we found was that back in the 1950s and early 60s, there was a question in terms of human anatomy as to whether or not Homo sapiens were pair bonded as a primate or promiscuous as a primate. The bonobos are very promiscuous. The gorillas are very pair bonded. They have one or two mates for life, and that's all. And it's based upon the size of the male testicle of the primate. And Homo sapien males happen to fall smack in between all of the other primates. So there was a real question as to whether or not we were pair bonded or if we were promiscuous in nature. And Desmond Morris did this seminal research on Homo sapien primates, looking at us as animals in the wild. And what he determined was that human beings prefer to have the comfort and security of a pair-bonded relationship. While we may want promiscuity beyond that what we fundamentally need and desire is the core of a pair-bonded relationship. And so then what he further did was he said, so what creates a long-term relationship between Homo sapiens? And what he found is that at the fundamental, foundational level of any long-term interpersonal relationship, that there are these 12 fundamental steps of intimacy that must be followed. And that if the two parties skip more than one step, so it could be step 3 and 8, 3 and 4, 5 and 11, it doesn't matter what the two steps are, that the psychological damage to the two parties would be the same as having a one-night stand. And that there would be less than a 5% probability of that being a long-term relationship. So what Roy and I did is we said, you know what, psychologically, whether it's a business relationship or an interpersonal relationship, the fundamentals of the psychology is the same. Yes, the customer experience is different, but the psychological position is the same. So what we did is we took Desmond Morris's 12 Steps of Intimacy and we applied them to business, and we mapped it out so that we could help our customers build more intimate relationships with their customers. So here are the 12 steps, and here's how they relate. Step 12 is sex. Step 1 is eye to body. So I see a beautiful woman across the room, and I make an instant determination as to whether or not I'm interested or not. So the goal in business is to take the customer from seeing you in an environment that you do not control to being fully engaged with you at whatever your highest level product or service is. So in the interpersonal context, I see a beautiful woman. I make a quick determination as whether or not I'm interested or not. Now, the woman that I'm looking at, the only thing that she can control is how she presents herself. Whether it's at a restaurant or a club or a bar or out on the street, the woman has no control of who sees her, how they see her, the context of how they see her, and their experience seeing her. All she can control is how she presents herself. Similarly, in business, eye to body would be when your customer sees you or your business in an environment or medium that you do not control. If you're speaking on stage, me being on this show, if someone does a Google search and they find you in a Google search, you do not control what is happening around you. All you can control is how you present yourself, how you understand your audience, and how you present yourself to said audience. So step 1 is eye to body. It's being seen by your audience and by your customer base, and knowing how to position and present yourself in those spaces to be seen. Step 2 is eye to eye. I see the beautiful woman sees me. This is where the concept of flirting comes in. Now, in business, what's important to note is that there are 4 currencies that we exchange one with another. One is time, one is energy, one is information, and one is money. And how much of each of those currencies you ask will dictate and determine what currency you ask for at which stage of these 12 steps. And typically speaking, we don't have enough currency or the right to ask our audience to spend the currency of money until step 8. Step 8, by the way, is kissing, which is the first really intimate engagement that we have with our audience. So, step 2 is eye to eye. I see the beautiful woman sees me. Now, what happens is, because I don't have the currency with the woman to look at her for a long period of time, if I just stared at her, Dr. Randy, if I just stared at you, you didn't know me from Adam, if I stared at you long enough, I'd probably freak you out because I don't have permission or currency to do that. And we know each other, and there's still a point at which I could stare at you and I would freak you out because I don't have enough currency with you. But with my fiance, I can look at her for a long period of time because the depth of intimacy that I have with her is deep enough that I can look at her for a long period of time. So what happens is at step 2, I look at the beautiful woman, I look away, and the beautiful woman looks at me. I look back at the beautiful woman, and she looks away. So what we're doing is a micro exchange of the currency of information and energy with each other. So it's a back and forth, back and forth. In business, if we use the step 1 example of a Google search, if we understood who the customer was who did the Google search, what their underlying need was, so that we're answering in the Google result both the stated and unstated question of the consumer, and they click on your search result, they go over to a landing page, or I prefer to use blog posts to fill the need of a landing page. And if you understand who your customer is, you will write your landing page or blog post in a way that fully expresses not only the stated question in the Google search and answers that, but also fully answers the unstated question that was behind the Google search itself. And if you understand the psychographic of who your audience is, you can write that blog post in a way that speaks in the language, the psychographic language of your customer, so that the customer will virtually feel seen by you. So step 2 is eye to eye, where you see the customer and the customer sees you. Step 3 is voice to voice. It would be inappropriate to go from flirting for me to go up and kiss a girl, right? If I did that, I rightfully would get smacked. And if I didn't get smacked, likely the woman would be communicating to me that she was interested in having a transaction, a one-night stand. Most direct marketers are the equivalent of being a pickup artist. And their job is to be able, the pickup artist's job is to get the woman in bed. The job of a direct marketer is to get the customer in bed. But they skip steps of intimacy through forms of manipulation to be able to get to that transaction. And what we're talking about here is the process of building a long-term relationship with your customer. If you sell a can of soup, then the process I'm teaching doesn't apply to you because that's a transactional process. But if you sell health and wellness, if you're a chiropractor or a sacral therapist or a massage therapist or anything else, you're selling something that is intimate to the individual, and you must follow these same 12 steps in building the relationship with your customer. So it would be reasonable for me to go up and exchange the currency by voice to voice with the woman of information, a little bit of time, and a little bit of energy to see if there's interest to me. I have walked up to women in the past that I was attracted to, flirted with, and when I walked up to them, they were dumber than a rock. That's not of real interest to me. I'm not going to pursue that. On the other side, I'm certain that there are women who talked to me who found me to be incredibly boring and were not interested in the same, didn't have the same values or interests that I do. So each of these steps, we're addressing and exchanging values between customers. So the goal here is to see if there is ongoing interest. Step 4.
Michael, can I just jump in here? I think that there's something that you said that is so important that we talk about all the time, but you presented it in a little unique way that I think bears repeating. From what I understand, when you talk about step 1, okay, and you don't have control, so you basically have to be answering their question, so they click on your link and wind up on your blog or your landing page, whatever it is. I think that it bears repeating that this is where we always talk to people about how important the page that people land on your website, on your blog really is. And so many people have sites that are just, horribly organized. I call it schizophrenic sometimes, where nobody would know where to go. So you created the first step with them by getting them to click, and then they land there, and you're by no means answering a question, making a connection, or anything. Can you just address that for a second from that perspective? Because I think too many, and also people put up a website and think that it could stay there for the next 50 years and I never have to edit it.
So, oh yeah, I mean, websites are never static. They're fluid and should always be updated based on information and the experience of the customer. Look, what we're talking about here is mapping out in a non-intimate environment the experience of the customer, right? There's a book by Brian and Jeffrey Eisenberg. It's an ebook titled Buyer's Legends. And I highly recommend that the viewers of this go to Amazon, buy it, download it from Kindle. I think it's $2.69 or $2.99. But really, everything we're talking about is emulating what we would do in an intimate environment in non-intimate environments. What happens is as I walk through these 12 steps, most people realize that they did this naturally with their significant other, and they didn't think about it. And it was done in an intimate environment. But when we're looking at marketing in non-intimate environments, we have to be incredibly intentional about the experience that we are creating for our audience so that it's respectful and reflects what we would do naturally in an intimate environment. You know, a lot of marketers would get them to a blog post and then try to get them to opt in for something. Get them to a squeeze page. And I find that holistically offensive. It would be like when I spoke at Dr. Hoffman's event, if you came up to me to ask me a question and I said, I won't answer your question unless you give me your business card. That would be offensive to you. Similarly, it's offensive online if you ask for the wrong currency at the wrong point because it doesn't reflect how we as human beings naturally engage. So the website is the opportunity for your customers, their first touch with you, their first experience, to be able to establish trust and build and to start their journey with you, their experience with you. And really that's what it is. It's a journey. And you're taking your customer on a journey, and you have to be really intentional about knowing what that is, and you don't want to violate that experience, or you end up being what I call a douchebag marketer, or the equivalent of a pickup artist. And we, for your customers, and your audience, they want to avoid that like the plague. They want to be as respectful to their audience as possible, and they know that intuitively in an intimate environment. But most business owners aren't natural marketers, and they don't think about how to apply what they do in an intimate environment in non-intimate environments. So step 3 is voice to voice. Step 4 is the first physical contact. This is hand to hand. This could be shaking hand. This could be me playing Tootsies under the table, or me moving my hand over and me skirting my finger up, my little pinky up against their little pinky, and seeing if there's an exchange of interest and energy there. We call this hand to hand. At this point, it's an exchange. We're exchanging either time, energy, or information. We're not yet at the point of exchanging money. At hand-to-hand, if we went from a blog post, and by the way, the reason I like blog posts versus landing pages is that from a voice-to-voice standpoint, you can allow for comments and have that conversation engagement at the bottom of a blog post. Social media, by the way, fits in at a step about 2.5, because a social media post should lead to a blog post content. Roy Williams would say, to win a customer's money, you must first win their time, and then I would add the other currencies on top of that. But it's going from 30 seconds of time to 8 hours of time to read a book at step 8. That's what we're bridging, is that amount of time. And so at step 4, what I often will have a client do is either give away without an opt-in a free white paper or report of some kind, some content, so that the audience engages more time. It could be that they spend 10 to 15 minutes listening to a podcast at this point as well. But we don't want to ask for too many currencies. We still only want to ask for one currency. And typically speaking, at step 4, we're either going to ask for a little bit of information or a little bit of time as a currency. The other thing that we like to do at a step 4 online is what we call a reverse opt-in. Now, I said earlier we don't want to do squeeze pages and opt-ins, and I fully agree with that. What I'd like to do at a step 4 is have the customer take an assessment that allows us to reflect back to them who they are. AWeber, which is a CRM, did a study about 5 years ago where they looked at all of their clients' subject lines for emails, and they were looking for what subject line got the greatest open rate. And what they found was, regardless of whether it was selling Viagra or personal development or a book or selling candy, that the #1 subject line for open rates was, "You are not alone." Most people want to feel heard and seen. And so what I like to do at step 4 is have them take an assessment that we tie into the subject matter that we're talking about, as well as into a Myers-Briggs test, so that we can give them a free result that reflects back to them based on Myers-Briggs their personality, and then brings in whatever the subject matter is that we're talking, so that the customer feels seen. We ask for a little bit of information at time as they fill out the assessments, usually 20 to 30 questions, but we don't ask them to opt in to get the one-page report because we want them to feel seen. Now, if for about 75% of those that fill out the assessment, they will feel seen by us, and we will we'll give them the opportunity to opt in for a more complete report, 5, 10, 15 pages at step 5. Right, so the step 4 is the assessment and the free result. The opt-in is now at step 5. Step 5 goes from hand to shoulder. So I'm here holding their hands. Now I'm going to put my arm around the shoulder and bring them more intimate and close to me. So I'm bringing them in. And again, in step 5, I have the right to ask them to expend more time or energy. If they opted in for the full report on the reverse opt-in, great. We could ask them to go through a webinar like this, where it's, or go to a meeting where it's 30 minutes or less. Right? We're looking at the slow expansion of currency. So step 5 is hand to shoulder. Now, if I have a woman here and I go to kiss her, I can, but it's really goofy and uncomfortable. Really, what I need to do is position the woman in front of me before I kiss her. So the next step, at step 6, is hand to waist. So I position the woman in front of me and I put my hand around her waist. Now, what this communicates to the other party is what my intention is. The other party can stop me at any time. And oh, by the way, when I go on the road and I speak and I come home to my fiance, I can't just come home, say nothing, throw her on the bed, and expect that something's going to happen. I have to go through these same 12 steps every single time. Now, because I have intimacy with her, I can do it more rapidly than I could with someone that I just met. But I still have to go through those same steps. What happens in real life is that the engagement goes back and forth. We have a conversation, we move forward to step 4, we play footsies, we move back to conversation, we move to playing footsies again, to putting my arm around the shoulder, and back and forth as we exchange currency until both parties are comfortable to move on to the next step respectfully. So step 6 is hand to waist. Now we have the ability to ask our customer to fill out a detailed online assessment. If we were doing a financial assessment, I have a client, Garrett Gunderson, who does an online financial assessment where you're giving a detailed amount of information at a step 6. So for your business, you have to define what currency, time, energy, or information you're going to ask for at a step 6. Step 7 is hand to face. Right, so I have my hand around the woman's waist. I could certainly pull her in and kiss her. The action is still a little awkward, and it's not quite respectful. But if I put my hand on her face, 1, it communicates to her directly what my intention is, what I want, and it allows her to without causing a problem, be able to pull back if I'm moving too fast. But it communicates the intention of both parties. So step 7 is hand to face. Here, you can get someone onto an hour to 90-minute free webinar that sells into a program at step 8. You could take them through a 3-video training series that's an hour long. Again, you can ask for time or energy or information. And it's possible, if the other currencies are right, if you were to sell a 99-cent ebook on Kindle or an app on an Android or an iPhone, where the currency is a very micro amount of currency, but it can't really be more than about $1, or $2. So step 7 is hand to face, and we're asking for more currency of time, energy, or information. Step 8 is kissing. This is the real first intimate action, and it literally took us 8 steps to get to kissing, and we did that very naturally. What most direct marketers want to do is go from voice to voice to kissing, skipping the steps in between, and those steps in between are critical to establishing trust with your customer. So at step 8, we can ask for 4 hours of time. We could ask for $100 in cash. We could ask for a bit more information or a bit more energy. If you're helping someone work out, you have a workout program, you can ask them to work out for 30 minutes, but you can't ask for 30 minutes of workout and $100. You could ask for $20 and 30 minutes of workout, but you've got to work out what the balance of currencies are at that point. So step 8 is the real first intimate action where you have the right to ask for a real currency of money. From there, it gets hot and heavy pretty fast. It goes from kissing at step 8 to step 9, which is hand to body. Define that as you will, but it's hand to body, and this is the concept of petting. At step 9, now we have the right to ask for more time, more energy, more information, more money. Oftentimes at a step 9, this is where a psychologist could come in and work with a patient. This is where you could do a 2-day event. You could ask for up to $500 in cash. Garrett Gunderson at this stage has a conversation. One of his agents will have a conversation with their clients for an hour, reviewing all of the information that they had previously submitted. So it's really an issue of figuring out what currency is right. But you can ask for a bit more time, more money, more energy, more information at that point. Step 10 is mouth to body. Again, define that as you will, but it's mouth to body. Again, we're getting more and more and more intimate. Here we can ask for up to a couple $1,000s in cash. We can ask for 3 days of time. We could ask for really intimate information if the couple goes away on a marriage counseling retreat for 3 days. That information and time and energy, money, all of those things are as a currency being exchanged there. Step 11 is full transparency, nakedness. Now, in business, sometimes and oftentimes nakedness, being fully open and transparent with the other party, is as far as you get. Being truly naked in a virtual sense can be really scary. To be totally honest and transparent and to hide nothing can be scarier than sex itself for many, many people. And so here it's getting the customer to fully open up. They could spend up to $10,000 in cash. They could spend a week of time with you. This could be truly deep emotional healing. This could be a year-long contract for chiropractors. This is really intimate, deep work. And of course, step 12 is full body intimacy or sex. This is the premier product or service. The majority of your clients will stop at step 10 or step 11. Those that get to step 12 are your raving fans. You're going to get the best referrals out of your step 12, and they're the ones that are going to engage with you at the deepest possible level.
Let me unmute myself. Okay, that's a lot of information, and it's very interesting to me. One of the constant concepts and tones that you get from what I do is we talk about building relationships is the only way to have long-term sustainable growth in a business. I don't care if you're a realtor, a chiropractor, or anything in between. And you have to have patience. So you just kind of, mirrored that by explaining that there's 12 steps. You can't. I always say there's no shortcuts. If you're really looking for something that's going to reflect your business for years and years and years.
If you're looking for shortcuts, you're a pickup artist, and admit that you're a pickup artist.
Yeah, I have a couple.
Go ahead, Dallin.
I have a couple of questions, Michael. That first of all, you took marriage counseling as the basis to look at that, and then recreated that. Was marriage counseling a successful entity? In other words, did they have any value truly? I know a lot of people go for marriage counseling. As the outcome of marriage counseling ever show real benefit? Number one. Number two, I just want to get all my questions out because when you get on a roll, it's hard to stop you, so I'm going to give you all my questions and you can jump into those. Number two, in this first step where we're doing eye to body, we're now in a situation where there are so many people striving for the attention of the individual. It's like you're at a party, that person is there, and there's a whole bunch of eyes checking out that person that want to engage them. So now it appears that the only way you can get the attention of somebody is almost steal it from somebody else. So is that a factor in the 12-step? And lastly, reputation. So in other words, if I'm in the market to get a #1 bestseller, and I know that Michael Drew has 83 bestsellers, do I skip steps in the process so that I'm already step 4 when we start, or step hand to shoulder or something, because I know that you have what I want? So if you could answer those 3 things.
Absolutely. So to answer the first question, what Desmond Morris defined and determined was that the psychological damage of skipping more than 2 steps makes it virtually impossible to fix those. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot of work by both parties to fix the relationship. And they use which step was skipped, and I'm not a psychologist and I won't pretend to be, but they find out what steps were skipped, and they then have different systems to try to resolve it based on the steps that were skipped. Most parties are not willing to go through the work to make that happen, and so it's certainly identified how you could solve it if you were willing to. It doesn't necessarily mean that both parties are willing or would do that. For me, it's very practical from a business standpoint for marketing because I can make sure that my clients set up the systems appropriately. Let me answer the third question because I think I forgot the second. The third question was in terms of, the second question was in regards to being seen at a party. So here's the thing. In a we cycle, which we talk about in Pendulum, our currencies are authenticity and transparency, and it's about building community. One of the things that we learned very quickly is that it's no longer about defining what you stand for, but defining what you stand against. So if you're in a room, it's better for you to know what you stand against, not try to be the center of attention for everybody, but rather repel everybody that you don't want and only attract those that you do want. So the people that are going out trying to attract everyone, that are social butterflies, they really don't, from a business standpoint, they don't understand how we build community in a we cycle. It's better to define what you stand against in a we cycle than it is to define what you stand for. If you can clearly articulate what you stand against, people will know what you stand for, and you'll attract those that are going to be the best fit for you from a business standpoint. Now, the question about hiring Michael Drew. We have clients who come in transactionally. They have a need. They come in, they want us to do bestseller campaign. Now, I own a full-service marketing agency that builds thought leadership platforms. We do websites, we do persona architecture, we do marketing advice, we do a whole bevy of things. If someone comes in who has heard of Michael Drew, has heard of Promote a Book, and wants a bestseller, they're coming in transactionally. And those clients don't hire us to do anything else. They only hire us to do the bestseller because that's what they came in to do. They're happy with the service. We deliver exactly what we say, and they go away. They may refer us, but they don't come back to us to use our other services because they didn't come in relationally. Those clients who come in through the same process, they come in from referral. Even if someone sees the three of us on this call today, what you're doing is transferring your reputation and relationship with your audience to me. Now, that doesn't mean that I can skip steps, but it will allow your audience to more quickly go through the same steps because you're transferring confidence from you onto me and trust from you onto me, so it will allow the audience to more quickly move through it. Clients like Garrett Gunderson, who worked with us on every level, started off with going through these 12 steps. And yes, he was introduced, but he was methodical about it. He went through it. And he's a pretty fast-moving guy. I mean, he's intelligent, capable, he moves quickly, but he went through these same 12 steps. And because of that, we have a long-term relationship. So it's not to say that we don't have transactional-based clients. We do, but we have to recognize that those that come in transactionally, the probability of them being a long-term client beyond that is less than 5% because they're only looking at us transactional. If you went in to get an oil change and the Jiffy Lube did exactly what they said, great, they did what they said. You could have had a great experience, but you may go to a different oil company next time because you went in transactionally, not relationally.
So the transactional, if you could still hear me, I'm not sure. So even if with someone like yourself with your reputation, it would be like a one-night stand, but they know what they're getting ahead of time.
Correct. They know exactly what they're getting, and I had Ryan Dice, who does digital marketer, said.
I know Ryan, sure.
Yeah, Ryan said about me that I'm the best one-night stand that he knows, and I'm so nice. So, but yeah, that's the thing though. It really we know. I know coming in from experience, and they know coming in. It's going to be transactional. It's going to be one-night stand. We're going to have fun, and when it's over, it's over, and we don't have an expectation of a long-term relationship.
Right.
Well, I'm going to do my Michael, what I call Randy's recaps, which usually I have a list of things. I have so many cards here. Oh my God! But here's the thing. This is what really stands out for me. If I had to kind of pick one thing, not to take up a whole lot of time again, I think understanding that we are in a we cycle, and for those of you that I know Michael explained it, but read the book, and understand that I think you said that's until 2040 or 2043. Yeah, that it's about relationships and community. So you have to integrate that into your business model and into your business mindset. And that's so important to understand. There's so many people that miss so many opportunities because they're in a me cycle, but the rest of the world's in a we cycle. And I have a 14-year-old who I think they're all in me cycles, but that's a whole nother talk. So I think that that's really important to take away from this, that you need to look at your business and take this information that Michael gave us and, look at your website and look at how you're communicating, and are you a pickup artist? And it's okay if you are, but recognize it, admit it, and correct it, because everything is correctable and you can have that long-term growth, and that's what we're always talking about. I am going to turn it over to Dr. Allen in a few minutes. I just want to let Michael, have like kind of a last word here, if Dr. Allen wants to bring up our closing slides. And I'm sorry our time was short, but we'll definitely get our schedules together, Michael, and have you back.
Great.
All right.
Final words is treat your customers with respect and dignity, and intend to build relationships, not transactions with them. I believe this will be on the final slide. What I'd like to do is give a gift to your audience. The first is we have a program called the Pendulum in Action Fundamentals, which we launched with the book. Normally we sell it for $147. I'd like to give it to your audience for free. This online program includes the 90-minute pendulum presentation, which you both mentioned earlier, that I've presented at Harvard 3 times. I filmed it in studio, so it's not as good as it is live, but it's a high-quality presentation. We also have a presentation on persona architecture and a further expansion of the discussion, and a presentation on the 12 steps of intimacy. So if you go to pendulumgift.com, pendulumgift.com, and sign up, you can have the Pendulum in Action Fundamentals as my gift to you. If you are interested in book promotion and book marketing, if you're just starting out as a writer, we have a great blog at beneaththecover.com, www.beneaththecover.com. If you are at the level where you're looking at being published or marketing your book to bestseller, our services are explained at promoteabook.com, promoteabook.com. And if you are interested in looking at publishing your book and marketing, and you want more information from me, please email me directly, and I'll send you a white paper on how to publish a best-selling book. Email me at michael@promoteabook.com. That's Michael at promoteabook.com. And again, we'll give you the white paper on how to publish a best-selling book.
All right, well, we're going to throw it over to Dr. Allen to close us out.
Okay, well, it seems like we had the perfect show for Valentine's Day coming up. This was actually perfect. I don't know if you guys planned it that way or what, but it seemed to me 12 steps in relationships and Valentine's Day go hand in hand. Anyway, you've been watching Building Your Wellness Brand Within Your Community. Today's episode is brought to you by Epic Consulting, making sure your electronic presence is all it needs to be. Community Wellness Day. Every great opportunity begins with the first step. Take that step with Community Wellness Day. The System, the official marketing program of healthcare professionals everywhere. The VIP app, the only application that allows you to bring your live hangouts just like this one to the desktop, smartphones, and tablets of all those people following you. And, of course, our new program, Google in 10 Minutes, a step-by-step guide for all things Google for your business. And you can learn more about that at tinyurl.com Google in 10. On behalf of myself, Dr. Alan Weinstein, my co-host, Dr. Randy Ross, and a great guest today, Michael Drew, who I'm a great fan of, as is Dr. Randy's, we want to say thank you for coming, and we look forward to speaking with you again next week.
Thanks, guys.